learn today's latest news and updates surrounding AUBAMEYANG, Frenkie De Jong and Wesley Fofana. We have exit update news as Barkley leaves today on a free deal, ZIyech is set to sign for Ajax on loan, as well as Paris Saint-Germain showing interest in Kante. So we have a ton of things to break down and discuss today. The window ends in the next few days, and you're expecting us to sign between 3 to 4 players before deadline day comes. So make sure you guys stay tuned to BlueLionsTV. I'll let you guys know now, expect my match preview for the game versus Southampton to come out tomorrow morning instead. So make sure you guys have those bell notification buttons on. Thank you for watching and getting straight into things. So right now, let's discuss the latest news surrounding ZIyech. And I have to say, I'm a bit surprised by this news. I was kind of expecting us to sell ZIyech back to Ajax on a permanent deal. Instead, he will be signing for Ajax on loan. Now, you'd imagine that after they've sold Antony to Man United for 100 million euros, that they have money in the bank. They've sold so many key big name players this window. But I guess we have to accept the fact that this is Ajax's model. That's their strategy, to flip players for more money. So I guess that means that they have to work within a structure. But still, that original valuation we placed on ZIyech's head of 44 million euros was just way too much money. I mean, the fact that Ajax couldn't even afford ZIyech due to their wage bill structure as well too, wasn't going to make things easier. Reports came out earlier today though suggesting that we did lower that valuation between 25 to 30 million euros, but in the end, that was still too much money. So knowing the fact that this window is now ending very soon, is there really time to negotiate to find an exit for ZIyech? I don't think so. I mean, earlier during this window, his move to AC Milan fell through because the valuation was too high and AC Milan couldn't satisfy ZIyech's wages. So we're left in a situation where we can't keep an unhappy player that doesn't want to be here. There isn't too much interest at this point in time. So I'd imagine that Ajax's strategy won in the end and they're able to sign ZIyech on loan. Now, we have no real key details behind the loan fee, but you'd imagine that we are going to receive a pretty decent loan fee. But we are going to have to subsidize quite a bit of ZIyech's wages, which is kind of typical of so many players that we've been signing recently and then literally loaning out after one season. So, I'm always going to feel like there was a lot more to come from ZIyech, but the reality is he doesn't have his position in the team, and now that Tuchel is able to build the team more in his image, I guess he has to be sacrificed, and that's it. So good luck to ZIyech. Of course, I'll be following him for next season. And now we move on to the next story. So right now, let's discuss the latest news on Wesley Fofana. At this point in time, he has unofficially signed for us. And the reason why I'm saying unofficially is because all the paperwork is now done, complete, it's over. And this news was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. Currently, the final thing that's needed now is for Fofana to complete his second medical, and he's taking his medicals in the States in New York. Now you might be wondering, Nini, why is Fofana in the States taking his medical? That seems a bit extra. Well, this came at the request of Todd Boehly. We all know that Fofana just came back from a pretty nasty leg break, which took him out for large parts of last season. So it only makes sense that if you're investing so much money on a young player, you want to make sure that there is no issues to come in the future. You want to make sure that he's safeguarded. There's no lingering things that could flare up in the future to affect us. It makes sense. And actually, Fofana is being treated by leg specialist and Dr. James Andrews, who's like a leading ligament surgeon in the States. So he's currently getting the best treatment, and you'd imagine that there'll be no issues that flare up. And if something did, then I'd be very surprised. But just double confirming that everything's okay and everything's good. So once he comes back, you'd imagine the announcement won't be too long. And of course, he will get announced before the window does end. It seems like the final valuation is definitely below a world record fee. It's going to be around 70 mil plus 5 million, but some reports are even suggesting that it could be even lower than that. I guess we won't get the final confirmation. I'd imagine that this is news that Leicester City don't want leaked or announced because they need to make sure they save face and keep that strong image of being very difficult to negotiate with in the market. So regardless, Fofana is now basically our player. You guys get excited, announcement coming very soon. And right now, we move on to the next story. So right now, let's now move on to Frenkie De Jong. And we found out some pretty interesting news. Currently, Frenkie De Jong is in London. Originally, during the start of the day, it was believed that him and his partner had flown down to London because they were getting ready to attend his former teammate's wedding in Van der Beek. However, news came out literally like half an hour ago from Sky Sports confirming the fact that nope, there's no wedding happening at all. They've spoken to someone very close to Van der Beek and they confirmed that there's no wedding happening at this point in time. Romano came out and also said as well too that De Jong is literally here on holiday. Xavi has given him a few days, of course, to rest up. And you're just thinking to yourself, it's very convenient that when it's approaching transfer deadline day, he's now in London with his partner. Now, in my opinion, would it be a surprise if De Jong was currently trying to get the co-sign from his partner to find out if she would potentially enjoy life in London? It just feels a bit too convenient at this point in time. With a deal like this, I feel like it will be kept under wraps quite a lot. You don't want to let out too much. You don't want to maybe incite the interest from Man United and from others. So let's see what happens here. But the reality is that Barcelona ideally still need to sell Frenkie De Jong. Currently, the situation with the player is the same. He prefers to remain at Barcelona. However, he isn't taking any salary cuts. So if you're not taking any salary cuts, you're making it very hard to remain at Barcelona. And the fact that he is now in London just feels way too convenient that there's no way that we're not currently holding discussions with him, Barca, and our agents to get a deal over the line. It just feels a bit too good to be true. Currently, he could go anywhere right now. There's literally nothing happening in London unless he came down for Carnival. So let's continue to see what happens. But knowing the fact that De Jong will be in London for the next few days, this is pretty big news. So now let's continue on with this Barcelona conversation. And what exactly is now happening with AUBAMEYANG? I think we all kind of believe that we've found agreements time and time again. We've found agreements of personal terms, only to find out afterwards that things aren't quite as close as they were originally reported and seem to be. Now, we had some news coming out from Mr. Ornstein from The Athletic today, suggesting that maybe we are starting to have second thoughts and doubts on a deal for AUBAMEYANG. And the reason for this comes down to price and valuation. I mean, AUBAMEYANG is 33 years old. Currently, when it comes to his contract, we only want to offer 1 year. AUBAMEYANG wants 2 years, so that's the first hurdle. But the second hurdle is coming to that final agreement with Barcelona. Our original 50 million offer was turned down. We upped that to 20 million in the end with no bonuses or additions on top, which still isn't enough for Barca, who are hoping to earn around 25 to 30 million for the player. Now, on one hand, we're hoping to get a deal over the line by offering Marcos Alonso to bring the overall costs down. However, Barcelona want to do this deal separately. I'd imagine this is due to accounting reasons. So what's going to happen in the end? It feels like Marcos Alonso will be quite key in getting this move over the line. Is it really that difficult for us? Maybe pay a bit more money to get AUBAMEYANG here. Maybe offer the guy like a contract extension if he meets certain clauses in his deal. That could make sense. Marcos Alonso has already agreed personal terms with Barcelona and is basically waiting to sign for them on a permanent deal now. So it seems like we aren't too far away. And reports suggest that the next 24 hours, of course, is going to be massive. Naturally, it has to be because the window ends on the 31st. So let's see what happens with this story. Of course, on sad news, on a personal note for AUBAMEYANG, it was revealed at the start of this morning that he did suffer a bit of a beating at the hands of robbers that kind of entered his home, threatened himself and his family, and left with a lot of jewelry and goods. So quite sad. It seems to be more common now that footballers are getting targeted and robbed. I don't know what's happening with that situation, but it's not nice to hear that AUBAMEYANG, of course, suffered a bit of bruising from them. So let's hope that he's okay, that family's okay as well too. And let's see what happens to the story, you guys. So now, let's move on to the next story. And let's talk N'Golo Kante and Paris Saint-Germain interest. Now, this is very interesting. Reports today suggest that Paris Saint-Germain are monitoring Kante's contract situation. Of course, him and Jorginho have 1 year left on their existing deals. And today, Tuchel did reveal that, maybe Kante's age and injury concerns will come into consideration when a new contract is presented. As Tuchel himself said, you cannot disregard Kante's injury records. You have to consider everything that is on the table. And on the table is his potential, on the table is his influence and his quality. But on the table, of course, is his age, his salary and his injury rate. Of course, from there you build a whole picture and try to find a solution. So, are we looking at a situation where N'Golo Kante could be leaving on a free? Because once it gets to January, he can talk to any club he wants. And I just feel very uncomfortable knowing that guys like Christensen, Rudiger and Kante, players that have a ridiculous valuation, could be leaving us on a free. Now, I understand Kante's injuries aren't helpful right now, but I can't help but feel a bit frustrated knowing the fact that so many managers like Sarri and Frank Lampard regularly brought this guy back way too soon. I think Sarri was a massive culprit, really rushing him back for that Europa League final as well too, which I understand because that was like his first opportunity to win, European silverware. But I just kind of feel like you know, this has all come at the expense of Kante and his fitness. And it's a bit of a shame that he hasn't had like that regular backup to allow him to rest at times. I feel like this guy is such a unique player that I don't feel comfortable giving up on him right now. And I say this because at the end of last season, the conversation resurfaced around the fact that, you know, is Kante done now? Is he dusted? Should we cash in, make some money? We haven't done that. And if you want to sell, you sell him right now. So I'd imagine that we'll probably offer him a new deal because it doesn't make any sense to let him go like that in my opinion. He's currently out for the next month. For me though, it did feel like maybe Basuma's contact with him kind of aggravated the injury that he received for Spurs, but I don't think they're like any like serious reoccurring injuries. I do feel like he can get past them. And as I was saying before, last season convo centered around the fact that is he done and finished, but during pre-season he came back firing, and at the start of the season he looked like one of our best players and he looked fully fit. So that's what Kante can do. The fact that we have 5 subs now, I feel like there is more life to Kante, and maybe because he is such a unique player, is it time now to think about his long-term role? Is it time to maybe move him back a bit deeper now as a DM to save on his legs a bit more? Because we do have guys that can maintain that press. And as we've seen under Thomas Tuchel, players have to do their bit for the team. So could Kante, of course, find more life being pushed back a bit deeper? I like to think so, because for me, if Kante leaves, he improves any team he goes to. And as I keep stressing, he won't be going to a lower level team. He'll be going to your Paris Saint-Germains or your Real Madrids or whoever. So let's see what happens here. But for me, I hope Kante's not going anywhere. But maybe it does seem like Tuchel will have a final say behind whether he thinks there's more life to come from Kante. Let's hope when he comes back next month, he comes back fully fit and ready. But some reports have also suggested that maybe Kante may feel like it is time to move on now. You know, the club's a bit different. Of course, he has good relationships with people at the club, but you know, he's kind of won everything with us so far. Maybe he feels like it's a new chapter now in his career. Time will tell. But now to end things on the final story, after agreeing a mutual contract termination. So that means that we'll probably pay him some money now to be able to leave, which we probably have to do because Barkley's earning around 120k per week. Last season he got no loans. The interest is really dying down for the player. There's a few clubs in the championship showing interest, but for his wages, no deal is going to happen there. And now that he's made available in a free, there's talks that he could be going to Inter Miami. You know, last season he picked up 492 minutes playing 14 games. He got over 100 appearances for us over his Chelsea career, so that's not too bad. A few nice pieces of form, but in the end, you know, I just kind of felt like he was never really Chelsea material to begin with. And I kind of always expected him to struggle in the end, and I guess I'm not surprised by how his career at Chelsea has ended. Of course, you know, he does have a bit of creativity in him, but I kind of feel like it's his application now that's not quite the same. And after he kind of failed at the end with Aston Villa, it did kind of feel to me like, okay, I'm not expecting too much from the player anymore. But still, you know, he had some moments with us, a few decent goals here and there. His final goal came against Watford in the final home game of last season, and I guess at least he has that memory going forward. So good luck to Ross Barkley. And you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.